Hello everybody, Miles Kessler here, and I thought I'd make a short video today about the value of working with a meditation teacher. It could be any teacher for anything, but specifically about a meditation teacher. And recently I have put together a meditation apprenticeship program. It's a 2-year program where I want to work closely with some meditation apprentices over a longer period of time to kind of hold their hand as they move through the progress of insight in their meditation. And I'm putting this together. I've had to think quite a bit about what does it mean to be an apprentice? What does it mean to work closely with a teacher? And personally, I've actually been an apprentice in not one lineage, but actually 2 lineages with my Aikido teacher and also with my meditation teacher. And I understand the tremendous value that can be gained in working closely with a teacher. But today, basically, I thought I would kind of go into that and speak about, what is the value of being an apprentice? When I work with my own meditation students, it always comes down to really 2 or 3 things that we really are. There's like burning questions about the practice, and these are questions or points that are beyond. Things like, how can meditation give me reduce stress in my life, and how can it bring more peace to my life? All super important. And how can I gain more clarity of mind and balance in my life, and how can I overcome bad habits or unskillful habits of the mind and install new habits, more skillful, healthy, wholesome, functional habits in the mind. These are all super important aspects of meditation practice, and they are actually byproducts of the practice. But when I work one-on-one in interviews, it comes down to some very simple points. Number 1, am I doing the practice right? People really want to know, am I doing this practice right? And number 2, am I making progress? And number 3 is, if meditation is a forward leading path, then how do I know that I'm on a clear developmental path towards awakening? These are the things that it comes down to. And these last 3 questions are something that really only get clarified in working closely with the teacher, especially in the interview. So the reason I can talk about this is because, I've had I've been practicing mindfulness-based meditation for over 30 years, and I've been teaching and guiding yogis and meditators for some 20 years now. And additionally, I've also, as many of you know, I'm also an Aikido teacher, so I've been in the consciousness and awareness training arts over 35 years. I've done 2 apprenticeships myself. I did one in Japan for 8 years with my Aikido teacher. And then when that was over, that 8-year period was over, I went on to Burma, and I started an 8-year period where I was working intensively with my meditation teachers. And I've spent a total of 3 years of intensive Vipassana mindfulness meditation retreats, silent retreats. For 15 years, I've been back in the West and working on basically integrating my deeper insights that I gained in the meditation practice in a different culture outside of the world. I've been working on how to kind of integrate that back into my culture, into the West, into daily life of living in the marketplace. Part of that exploration, part of that integration process, I've also been in spiritual dialogue with many other teachers who are lineage holders themselves. People like Ken Wilber and Diane Musho Hamilton and Fleet Mall, Terry Patton, Daniel Ingram, Ginny Whitelaw, David McCollum, Greg Thomas, Sally Kempton, Susan Piver, Patrick Cassidy, Wendy Palmer, Richard Strozzi Heckler, Robert Frager, Koichi Barish, Teja Bell, Jyoti Rupananda. These are just a few of the people that I've been engaged in spiritual conversation and dialogue. All of these teachers are lineage holders in their own right, and in one way or another, they have done apprenticeships themselves. And what we're always exploring is the same basic fundamental questions. What is spiritual awakening? What are the best practices and the optimal conditions for a person's awakening process? And how do we take these spiritual insights that we awaken to through our practice, these timeless spiritual truths that awaken in us, how do we take those and apply them into an ever-changing world? Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about not coming down from the mountaintop, although that's definitely a part of it, but the upward journey to the top of the mountain, that kind of internal, spiritual, meditative, developmental path that we're all walking on every moment we're practicing mindfulness-based meditation. And even if you're not interested in being an apprentice or working with a teacher, that's totally fine. I think what you're going to get out of this, because in the end, the teacher is just it's like an external hard drive that's plugging in and we're booting up their information through our own work. But in the end, it's taking that information, taking that knowledge, taking that wisdom, taking those insights, the skills, whatever it might be, and internalizing it ourselves. That's the process. Now, that process may be done in an apprenticeship model. It may be done in some other model. It doesn't really matter, but it's that internalization of the wisdom that is transmitted from one human being to another human being. That's the essence of what we're going to look at here. So an apprenticeship is really all about walking a non-ordinary path. And any non-ordinary path can be quite a challenging thing. And along the way, we always need some type of guide and friend and teacher, mentor to help us along the path. And traditionally, this was really what the apprenticeship program was like, is that we would kind of sacrifice, give up our normal world, talking in a traditional context, and go away. And if it was a spiritual practice, you would go away and maybe become a nun or a monk, or go live with a guru or a swami, or live with a priest, holy men and holy women, wizards, alchemists, witches, healers, shamans. You could also apprenticeship with a master craftsman. It didn't have to be a spiritual tradition. A butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. You would come out of it with some level of mastery after some years. And this was kind of the practice that I did in Japan with Aikido, because, day one was cleaning the toilets, learning how to clean the toilets, sweep the mats, wash the pots and pans, clean the dojo, clean the kitchen, It was a lot of pulling weeds, working out in the farm. We were training like maniacs, but the full year that I did as an Aikido apprentice, and then the 7 years after that was really devoted to service, and learning the art through that path of service. The Japanese have this beautiful saying, "Ishi no ue ni sannen." And the first image is a drop of water, coming off of a roof eave, dropping down. And they would put, around the Japanese house, they would always put a stone underneath where the water would hit, otherwise it would make a big hole in the ground and, fill with water. So they would put a stone there. And every drop of water that would hit, one drop has no effect on the stone. But if you go back after 3 years of continuous drops on that stone, there would be a little hole that was created in the stone from 3 years of regular, consistent dripping. Ishi no ue ni sannen, 3 years on the stone. The other metaphor is a monk sitting on a stone for 3 years, a big stone up in the mountain somewhere, and meditating. And after 3 years of that intensive meditation, some awakening would happen. And that's kind of what the apprenticeship program is. It is this long-term, consistent developmental process that moves forward incrementally, but forward it does move. And only after a period of time can you look back and say, oh wow, look at the hole in the stone. Look what's happened here. So when you work with a teacher as an apprentice, you will be on a forward leading path. And a person's meditation practice unfolds in a very predictable way, because there is a blueprint of consciousness. And your blueprint of consciousness and my blueprint of consciousness and the Buddha's blueprint of consciousness is the same blueprint of consciousness. Now, we all go through that in our own unique way, but the forward-leading journey is predictable. And where a person's at and what they need to pay attention to and the practices that they need to do and how to apply the technique is determined by where they're at in the practice and what's going to unfold next. So a good meditation teacher, will actually work with you hand in hand to understand that. Now, working with a teacher in this sense will give you many, many things. First and foremost is that you will gain a clarity of intention. Remember, apprenticeship program is it's just a bigger commitment. Whether you're doing it in the world or whether you're going off and living in a monastery or a dojo or a yoga school, or you're giving up and going to become a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, and doing 3 years of intensive washing pots and cleaning toilets, your intention becomes clear. And there's nothing like clarifying your intention than making such a commitment. Number two is that working with a teacher this way will give you a very clear focus of attention. You will know exactly what you need to be concentrating on, and in that developmental journey, you'll know where to put your attention, you'll know how to put your attention, and you'll know when you need to put your attention on the internal practice. Also, working with a teacher gives you a regular. Remember, meditation happens incrementally with consistent practice over a long period of time. Working with a teacher as an apprentice will give you a regular point of practice that you're repeating, that you're going back and you're repeating it again and again and again and again. Like, think of a golfer, he's always practicing his swings. Think of a sword master, always practicing their strikes. Thinking of a painter, always practicing their basic strokes. Yeah? Always repetitive practice is something you're going to gain. A meditator is always practicing their mindfulness, working skillfully, becoming more skillful with the meditation objects. So there's that repetitive practice that is essential to any type of development. And furthermore, you will get regular check-ins and guidance while you are undertaking that repetitive process. Through that guidance, you'll learn how to recognize when the insights are awakening. Because these insights that happen along the path of insight meditation happen very subtly at the beginning and gradually, and they become stronger and stronger. And working closely with a teacher will actually help you to see these insights. And when you see them, you can actually begin to cultivate them. So working closely with the teacher this way will not only help you to recognize these insights and to cultivate them, but to learn how to integrate them or even incorporate them into a new way of being in your daily life. But throughout this time, I've always been wondering, how can I work with people closely, more closely? And it's a question that, all the stuff I do and all the students that I work with, it's really deep work, and I love it. But to be able to work with somebody in that kind of close interview situation is kind of rare. And even in my courses, it only happens every now and then. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to start this apprenticeship program, so I could work people closely, specifically about what's happening in their meditation. And the traditional apprenticeship program apprenticeship training is really invaluable, but it's not perfect. There's all the pros, I mentioned those all about, but there are a few downsides to it as well. There are a few cons that are super, super important to understand. Number one is that it's not integrated. You would go away and you would work exclusively. So that goes very deep, but it's very narrow, and there's no integration in the rest of life. So that's number one. Number two, that you have to make serious sacrifices to become a real apprentice. You have to let go of relationships altogether, temporarily or altogether. You have to give up careers. You have to give up family connections, holidays, etc. You have to give up a certain amount of income, a certain amount of security. And quite literally, you have to get out of the world. You leave the marketplace and you go live in a very specific type of situation. Now, because of that, what you learn there, that goes very deep, and you learn a lot, but it doesn't get translated into your daily life, and it does not get translated into your cultural context. One of the other cons about an apprenticeship program, at least the ones that I've been involved with, all traditional apprenticeship programs. Remember, traditional means pre-modern. So the downside, one of the downsides of the traditional pre-modern apprenticeship program is that there's no shadow work, that they really don't understand the psychological insights that modernity and the postmodern world has come up with. So there's very little shadow work in that context. And the lineage teacher, without a doubt, is an expert in that lineage, but that doesn't make them an expert in everything. It doesn't mean they're an expert in sex and drugs and rock and roll and business and family and this and that. They're really deep in what they do, but there's not much of an integration happening. So the cornerstones of my teaching these days are really about the progressive insight, which is kind of what I got out of that lineage, but also how to take multiple perspectives. How do what do you say? Apply that insight into the multiple perspectives and cultures and situations and beliefs that we see in the world. I'm American, but I live in Israel. I'm half Jewish, and I live in a Jewish country, and I still like Christmas. I also taught Israel and Palestine, so I go into that context. I teach in all kinds of different countries, so I've got this kind of multicultural perspective that I've developed over time, and that's very much part of my integral process. So not only am I working on the progressive insight, but how to apply those insights into multiple different perspectives. And the third pillar, I would say, of my training that I work with people is shadow work. Now, I'm not a therapist, but there is a certain amount of shadow work that is necessary, that we do some basic shadow work in the developmental process. And if somebody wants to go deeper into that, then they go do work with a therapist, a properly trained professional. But these are the three cornerstones. And in my traditional apprenticeship training, it was only one. It was just the progressive insight, or it was just Aikido in that cultural context. So though knowing what those cons, the downside are, and knowing the value, the baby, not the bathwater, but the baby of an actual apprenticeship process is, I put together my 2-year apprenticeship program. The truth is that I'm completely committed to all my students. They're just different levels of commitment. Some of them are in courses that I do, and we meet 2 times a month. Sometimes we meet once a week. Sometimes we meet a little bit more. Other commitments are, like, I'm about to teach a retreat in Belgium next week, and for 6 days, almost a full week, we're going to be together, and I'm going to be working with them closely for that whole period. Other commitments, I meet people once in a while, or my students here, we meet probably twice a week for a couple of hours a day doing Aikido. So there are different levels of commitment. The 2-year apprenticeship program is going to be, it's a bit of a deeper commitment. It doesn't mean we're going to be living together, and thank God. I don't think either one of us want that. It doesn't mean we're going to be living together, but it does mean that we're going to be going through a process together, and you're going to get my very close attention. But your commitment is what is necessary. And that commitment needs to be a mature commitment to your own psycho-spiritual development. You should have a little familiarity with my meditation approach, which includes, the progressive insight, integrating the insights into different situations of the world, and doing a certain amount of shadow work. It'll be a commitment to show up twice monthly, one for a one-on-one interview session with me, plus a small group coaching session. You'll need to commit to a serious daily meditation practice, at least 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day for 5 days a week, committed for 2 years. You'll need to have a willingness to face the challenges of the practice. Doesn't mean that, I'm not saying anything other about that. You got to go through them or not. No. Just a willingness to face them, to courageously face them. There needs to be an openness to receive my support. Because, let's not waste any time here. If you're not open to receiving support, then, that's fine. But it's just another situation, and you will have to do you'll have to have a commitment to doing from year 2 actually, to doing a certain amount of shadow work on yourself, because any type of development and meditation needs to be accompanied with a certain amount of shadow work. And finally, you'll need to be able to financially commit, because, this is a closer relationship with me, a commitment over 2 years, a long period of time. So it has an according financial commitment. And through this commitment, what you will be getting from me is my reciprocal commitment to your development and success in the practice. You'll also get access to my knowledge and experience of over 25 plus years practicing and teaching, and my some 22,000 hours of meditation practice and all the guidance that I received, and the understanding of the progress of insight, and a certain level of an expertise in how to work with people as they're moving through that process. You'll get those one-on-one monthly interviews with me about your practice. You'll also get the small group coaching program, which is probably a small group. It's going to be 4 or 5 people in each group. We're going to have a special WhatsApp back channel. Text me anytime you want, anytime, all day long, and I will. If I don't answer you right away, I'll be able to send you a message pretty soon for any questions or any kind of adjustments that you might need in your practice. It's a direct channel to me that's always open. You'll also be able to attend 4 of my half-day online workshops that I'm going to be teaching, that I teach regularly, but over 2 years. The first one will be in Buddhist psychology for mindfulness meditators. The second workshop is shadow work for meditators. The third workshop is the inner secrets of the progress of insight. And the fourth workshop is Big Mind or voice dialogue for meditators. You'll get free access to those. You'll also get access to all of my online trainings. So every meditation program that is running or is online that you can access as a resource, you'll get. I'm going to unlock all that for you, and that's actually massive value. It doesn't include my mindfulness, my certified teacher's training, but if you are interested in becoming a teacher and you want to become a certified teacher, then there'll be an 80% reduction in the cost of becoming a teacher. That's a big discount if you join the 2-year meditation mentorship or apprenticeship program. And you'll also get a reserved seat at one of my retreats that I'm leading once or twice a year in Europe and possibly the United States. I still have to kind of organize that, but that's my intention. I won't be able to pay for your travel costs. I won't be able to pay for your room and board. But in terms of the teaching, that's all covered. And finally, you'll get my full dedication to your successful development along the process, the progress of insight, and the process of awakening. So all of that is over $8,000 worth of value when you join this 2-year meditation apprenticeship program with me. Now, to be fair, this is a high-ticket program. So that's what I'm talking about, the financial commitment. It is a high-ticket program because of the close work that you're going to be doing with me. So I know that that's not for everybody, but if you are interested in that, then look below this video, above this video, click over. You can see the page. Everything I just described is there again. And let me know. Answer me. Send me a message if you want. If you have any more questions about this, you can write to me anytime. You can send me an email, or you can find somewhere above or below this video. You'll be able to find a place that you can send me a message. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If you're already working with me as a meditation student, then there won't be any type of interview process. If you're seeing this and we've never worked together or never worked closely together, before you're accepted to this program, I would like to do a little bit of an interview with you. So we'll have to schedule something. And we're going to be starting soon. Soon. I'll probably be doing this again in the future, but not for a while. So this is your chance to apply. And if you're thinking about it, click below, go check it out. And any questions, write to me, and I will be happy to answer them for you. And even if you're not interested in this program, hopefully this talk on what it means to work with a teacher in this kind of classic teacher-student apprenticeship relationship is clarifying for you, and it actually will help you to work in a more clear, intentional way with the teachers and guides that you work with. And may that lead you forward in your practice forever and always forward on the path of meditation.